Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of I Am Legion Development. My name is Jason, the creator of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2, and I will be crawling through and working on some new improvements. So I just released the Human AI update this morning, and so I'm going to be continuing along that path this evening and looking at some of the balancing systems. I also have done some early work on setting up some AI behaviors that I'm hoping will lend to more features. So one of the things that I'm looking at is trying to code in some randomness with the movement systems, so that instead of the current system where you have the bandit, or not the bandit, sorry, the zombie AI, where they're shambling kind of thing right now with the Romero, and then with the casual, they're moving slower. And then with the Ultimate Survivor, they're just dashing towards the player. I couldn't get access to the locomotion files like I was hoping, and so what I'm going to try to do now is look at actually just writing their movement system to where it's kind of randomly selecting based on distance or based on certain things, so that way I can take the same biter and have him walk differently across all the different biters. It's kind of the first approach, and we're going to see what we can get as far as mileage with that system. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. So a couple of things that are always my standard. Over here on the left, we have the actual extracted code. I have a couple of different versions of these now. This one that you see that I'm in right now is the more extended extract. Let me get these moved into place here. And then the one below is the actual mod. 1.0 is progressing nicely. The one thing that I'm going to continue to look at is trying to basically hold off on releasing 1.0 at this point until the final release, or not final release rather, but the new release of the Techland update coming here shortly. Just because, again, just to reiterate, it doesn't make a lot of sense to release this final edition and then only have it break very shortly later. So I'm going to try to see if we can get that, get in all these updates here before, and then when it's time to release, we'll have the new Techland update already mixed in. So I'm going to go ahead and start crawling through. Let me share that I'm online really quick for the members on the Discord. Okay, and let's go ahead and get started. So similar to what I was just talking about with the slow movers, I'm going to actually start there. I think kind of the biggest question that I've been having with the human AI update is this question of, do we need to rebalance the health or the weapon systems for the zombies so that they're less difficult for the human AI to take down? Mainly just because if they're overbalanced or if they're overpowered, then they're always going to wipe out the human AI. And so either I only have the options to where I can essentially get them off the streets, send them up, which I'm starting to look at, or I can start to look more at trying to balance that out so that they're essentially using weapons that are designed to do a lot of damage against the zombies is kind of the initial approach or the thought for trying to go in there and say, okay, you know, when they fight humans, these weapons are weaker against humans, but for the zombie types, these weapons could potentially do even more damage to the zombies. So still trying to figure out how that system would work, but all things to consider. So with the movement, that would actually impact the difficulty quite a bit. If they're moving a lot faster, then obviously they need to be able to respond faster, or at least do more damage so that they can also get an upper hand on the runners. Otherwise, the runners are just going to wipe them out every time pretty quickly. So I'm going to be taking a look at that first really quick. So first I'm going to head over to our biter section. And then under here, we've got a couple of different moves that I'm using. So basically right now, move style. One of the things that I was thinking about before, it was kind of a happy accident that I discovered the Romero Shambler. I'm going to continue to look at trying to improve that movement code to where the Romero Shambler works out well for some people, but other people are probably going to want different types of movement. Hey, best gamer Ali, thanks for joining. Good to have you here. So I'm gonna look first at these different move styles that they actually have for the biters. Each AI type has kind of their own movement files for whatever reason, and so if you don't have the right movement files, my guess is that you end up with movement that is not consistent with how you want them to actually move. So I think they have like a basically a default system in there if they're not it's not set up correctly. So let's go ahead and open up our biter here. We'll just type in move, and just to confirm, this should be the extracted folder. Yeah. How's it going tonight, gamer? They have a move style that they're calling access to, and basically, their move style, I think, is actually what is it called, deteriorated or something like that. And so they have like their little sprint that they do towards the target once they actually detect it. But for the most part, they are moving around really at the standard. Hey, that's great. Thank you for jumping on. It's good to have you. I hope those other live streams were interesting. Sometimes a little boring watching the lines crawl by, but yeah. And then also, yeah, that's awesome. Make sure to share those links once you start recording those out. A lot of the members on the Discord, I don't know if you're ever on the Discord channel, but we've had a lot of members go on there and share their gameplay, and it's always exciting. With the first I Am Legion mod for Dying Light 1, I feel like one of my favorite things was seeing so many people do like their official playthrough using the mod. And it used to always just be so intense. You know, people were like screaming, and it was awesome. Let's see here. So here are their move styles. So under their updates, let's see, which is going to be under fighter updates. Choose move style. Hey, I appreciate the support. It's definitely it's getting there. I've switched over to the boring game or the boring game, the vanilla game every now and then just to do some testing, and it's just so dry. There's nothing out there. It's kind of empty. So yeah, for sure, I appreciate it. If we can figure out how to move around some notice boards and stuff like that so that people are more aware, that would be awesome. Just because I feel like if I watch the stats and everything, it's really easy to see that people have kind of moved on from the game. They'll be back once the first DLC hits and that kind of thing. They find a good reason to jump back on, but I definitely think that the initial surge to play the game has kind of died out, which is a shame. I think there was a lot of interesting things there, and I think co-op could have been pretty exciting to keep bringing people back, but it's just kind of how that goes. So let's see. Basically, with the code I was looking at here, I left this in here because it didn't end up doing anything. I need to figure out why it didn't do anything. Basically, the biters ended up with different movement code than everybody else. As you can see, all of their code is kind of based on walking. So they only really gave them walking, and then they had um, their actual like attack movements. So where they're actually like they do that over the arms thing. I think the animation and the locomotion system is driving them forward with that. So um, I'm going to try to see if doing this will help with some of that. Yeah, I think a lot of people were mentioning the loopholes in the storyline and a couple of different things that drove them away from continuing to play the game. I know that also I heard that a lot of people with the vanilla had issues with the things that were turned off or turned on after they beat the game, and it didn't give them a lot of reasons to stick around, which is a shame. Hey, Waco, Waco, Wacko. Thanks for joining, Johnny. Good to have you on the channel. Um, so I think the mod has definitely brought back um, a couple of the things that people lost after they completed the game. But I think this new game plus thing will probably bring some people back. Personally, I think from playing the later save games and then going back to the starting save games, I think I definitely like the movement and the difficulty of the early game over the late game because they did what they always do. You know, it's like the gold plated weapons kind of approach of like let's make the player feel invincible kind of thing. And so by the time you get to the end of the game, it stopped being scary about, for the vanilla game, it never really was that scary, but it kind of loses its edge for sure by the time you get to the end. It's more of a sandbox, blow things up. And if they don't give you enough to blow up, then it's really easy to fall off kind of thing. So let's see. And so what I'm going to do here is basically they have these different movement types. I need to find out what types of movements I have available for the biters. And so I'm going to take one of their movement types and add that to the search. And we can see here we have the actual biter locomotion animations. Pull that open. Assuming that this is, I'm a little concerned about that. Let's just see how they have these things named here. Huh. Find. Wow. So they have this like notice walk degenerated. That's an option, but it doesn't link to any animation file. So does that even exist? And I guess a bigger question here is like, does this file even work if it's referencing code that doesn't? Here's another one, but so far it hasn't. They've turned off a couple of these different systems, and so I guess the question is does this actually pair with their movement code. They've always been shady about their biters. I don't know what it is about the biters, but they did it with the pursuit when they blocked off a lot of the work I was doing with the sprinters and the runners, where they were searching the city and doing all sorts of things that I really liked. Um, they re-released it, and all the biter code just like disappeared. Um, and so I've actually been really surprised that they've even exposed some of the things they've exposed. But one of the files that I'm using to get these guys moving, it's like the only way to actually get the biters to respond. It's actually the only way to get any of these different zombies to actually work. And so it's really fortunate that I actually stumbled upon that when I did, because otherwise a lot of this code is not working. So essentially what I'm still trying to do right now is I'm trying to look at how I can use their their behavior code to basically make different zombies behave differently based on a randomizer of, like, their speed or their walking speed and that kind of thing, so that you end up with some shamblers, some runners, some walkers, that kind of thing. But based off of this, I think the challenge is going to be trying to get these guys to behave correctly if their movements don't actually update. So we need to find out how they're getting these guys to move and see if we can kind of tap into that. I'm going to move this window over as well. Sorry about that. I see that my webcam is blocking out some of that. Let me see if that actually updates that so you guys are able to see that better. Okay, so down here, so if we read through this, basically it's going through, it's saying, and these guys are written a little bit different from the human AI, where the human AI is a little bit more straightforward. This is basically saying, like, if they have any stimulus received, find the target, find the position, and if not, go to sleep. So they start their sleeper status. If they wake up, do these actions, stand up. Down here, they have this little note they added here that says, change this to continuous noise. I'm not really sure what they meant by that comment. But basically, I'm wondering if it has something to do with up here, because this any stimulus received, because when they say change this to continuous noise, it doesn't then lead into any noise value. So I'm not really sure what they were referencing. That might be an outdated line. But here we have the sunlight reactions and all that good stuff. So the update's going down, and we're getting all the way through the update. And then down at the very bottom, they can basically choose their move style. So here they're allowing them to go and actually select a move style. And then down below that, they've got a debug, which is where they added, so this is actually where they added the new biter grab logic. And so that's where that's syncing it over the network as well. So that's how it's kind of capping off. So their updates allowing them to go and change their move style. So potentially, let me pull up the extracted files here as well, just to confirm that I'm not missing any here. I'm sure I am under the updates. So they've got group behavior and then track. And then group behavior. So here they have the concept of aggression level. Let me look that up really quickly to see if we can potentially tie into their aggression levels. They have the concept of 0, 1, 2. Doesn't look like it goes up to 3, but essentially this is related to their chase code. So if we go down to chase, say bite or chase, there at the top we have aggression level 0. So we do have a condition that we can call that basically says if they have this level of aggression at this time, do these actions. So that's probably one to hold on to, just so that we can start, if we're going to start writing specific code for these zombies, it probably wouldn't hurt to hold on to this idea that they're doing actions based on aggression. I think that's probably a core system that we can rely on here. So from the general move, gather, and I'm trying to remember, let me switch over here because some of this is me. Matter of fact, all of this is me. So let's see. So this is using their group gather based on the movement. So simple. So let's go and pull open move simple. And then here is where they're choosing. So it's doing a selector. It's going through a sequence, and it's choosing based on these different things. So I think the problem here is that these values don't actually work, because based on what I was saying earlier between choose move style, they actually have these different ones. So I think one of the problems with my code is that I'm using the wrong move style stuff for them. So let's go in here and say request move style. So this is just setting the string, and then down here it's telling them to move using that value. So first we can request the move style. We want the value to be run. So this one, the top one's going to be run, which based on these, we don't really have a lot of values for like run. They don't really have a run, but they do have this like notice walk, which I guess that could be considered their run. So we'll go in here and say value notice walk. We'll set the value here. Let's see if that's got the, nope, notice walk. So if they're running, or the first one is notice walk, the next one is notice walk generated, which I think that's going to be their trot. And last but not least, and I guess because we already have, so we have a fourth one here, so I might as well just go ahead and add the fourth one, which is our walk to enemy, which that's the only one that actually showed up when I searched for it. So this actually might be the only one that really works. So we'll see here. So we'll update that code. This worked with the challenge here is that also we're switching their code over to the viral code. So with the viral code for the Ultimate Survivor, by doing that switch, these behavior codes probably aren't going to work because they're going to start using the behavior code of the virals. So that's kind of a shame in my book. I think one of the biggest challenges here is that they haven't given me the proper strings to allow me to. They haven't given me. There aren't the proper strings to tie into for the locomotion and for the different systems to be able to make them, for example, have, climbing animations and that kind of thing without swapping them over to viral. So because of that, if we want them to climb, the easiest way to do that is to just turn them into virals. If we want them to not be able to climb, they can stay walkers. So we have to basically see what these kinds of changes would do between the two types, or if that even matters. It may just use, like I said, it may just use its own viral code, and then we don't have to worry about it. So when they're initiated, searching target, generated, a stimulus received, wake, and I have learned so much by messing with the humans. I think the human code just took so much longer than the spider code, so I'm really hoping that the spider code will be a little bit easier. See these concepts of running. Is this? Oh, that's the player. So the player is running. So here potentially is another opportunity for trying to set these up for the different conditions for the difficulties. So we have this concept of walk versus walk to enemy. They don't if they don't have a concept of like a run like the rest of them do, then one of the problems could be that the code is stopping essentially when it says, make them run. Well, if they don't have a run, if they only have a, shamble forward, then that could be a problem. So let's update that code and see what we get. Also, with the move code, I guess trying to remember which one is actually being called. So they have basically, if we go back to so this is their knowledge tree. This is kind of the summary of their initial knowledge and what they fall back to. So when they always go down into the different pathways, they always resort back to this. So based on this, let me go and pull this and make sure I can clearly see what things I've already modified so that I'm aware. I've got the idle walk, so this is where I'm having them move. And I actually think one of the issues that I might be having is that, for example, with their attack objects, their crawl and everything, this is pretty far down the list. And then also, I think what's happening here is that there's not the proper handover. Because here we have the concept of move is handing off to move simple. Then move simple is going back to the behavior tree. The idle random walk is handing off to move. So that's a pathway. So potentially one of the issues could be is that I'm sending them in the wrong loop. So this is sending them to move. So then they're heading over to move, and then it's looking at the group destination. So this is why they get the flocking. That's actually working pretty well. And then well, I've got good news. I've been testing for a while with the concept of injecting kids into the game. I did a couple more modifications to that last release where I tried a different approach for getting the kid zombies in there, and it sounds like Vic discovered them. So yay! So the kids are working. I guess the question is because even I have not seen them yet. I've set up all the code to where they should technically work, but I haven't checked them out myself. Uh, Hopefully that went well. I might have to jump back in and go to the point that he just mentioned where he saw. So basically, I put the early stage Banshees. So the level 1 Banshees uh, are now little kids, and so I'm really interested to see what that looks like. Um, let's see here. So we've got this loop. I'm going to get back to this really quick. So we've got the loop. The random walk is getting fired first. So the random walk is getting fired, and it is getting fired all the way back up at the behavior tree level. It's firing to the random walk to send them in different directions. Um, Once they start the random walk, it's then sending them to move. Move is then sending them over to move simple. And then this is the one that's kind of supposed to be grabbing their different movement systems and allowing them to move. There's also this concept of move in a group or group gather. Let me see, is this their original code? So this is also not their original code. So this is another one that I've taken from another AI that it wasn't really working well in the other AI either. So the kind of the challenges here are, can I get these different systems actually working together? I don't know yet. So this one basically makes them group and and then look around. I don't know with the biters yet if I want the biters to necessarily like just gather. Rather, I probably want them to, for the hordes, I would probably want them to gather. So I would probably want them to gather first and then move as a group. So if I could horde them up, that would be pretty awesome. But I think I would have to change a couple of these things here to where they are actually forming these hordes properly and then moving. So essentially, what I could try here is on the move simple, it's getting handed over to the move simple. Instead of moving it over to the move simple, I could possibly do the move to the group gather and move them that way. The problem is so the idle fires first, and then idle fires first, and then the random walk fires next, which the random walk is then creating a target for where they're going. So potentially what I could do here is try to go fire the move group gather first to where I cluster them together. That might look a little weird. I'd have to see how well they actually do that. But if I fire them together, then I use the random walk code to find a random position out in space. And then I take that logic I take the point that it's getting, and instead of having them move by themselves to that location, I could potentially fire the move group gather, which this is supposed to say optional. Let me see if this is a good toggle. I don't think this is part of their, this is probably someone else's code. So yeah, that doesn't exist. So basically, instead of setting this up as a failure, it could possibly, it can't be an optional. Let me just say go group gather as a default. So they are switching between move and move simple. This fires back over to move simple fires back up to the main tree. They get their logic again, they fire back down. Instead of move simple though, I still need to see what a better approach is instead of move simple. I mean, this, so it fires this one first, fires down the move, it fires down group gather, fires down the move simple. I guess the thing that it's not firing is it's not firing group gather, is it? Oh yeah, it's doing it. It's doing it here. So it's firing this. And I think what I need to do is do selector. Then get rid of, I mean, stay selector. Which they're already in a selector. So that actually works. They're already in one. Okay. We just looked up one. So they're already in a selector. So it's either selecting between move simple or move group gather. So this is actually quite a few changes at this point. So let's go ahead and pull it up and see how bad we broke them, or how bad I broke them. And then also, I guess let's go try to find the kid zombies. Let's see if we can show those off. They should be at the beginning of the game. So it's a mod. And then for the beginning of the game, we'll need the, which I've been meaning to go back to the early on part of the game anyway, so that way we can see. So we got the after prologue save. I've been meaning to go in here and basically see what those, what that save now feels like anyway. Now that we've done the human AI, so let's go check this out. Let's go user data. This one. Okay. Asking Vic now what his thoughts about the kid zombie was. Let's see if we can keep it or if we need to shed it. I'm telling you, if I could just get the ability to inject custom zombies, this would be a lot of interesting stuff in there. But not while they have that locked down, really as interesting. Alright, so first let's start out for everybody joining that hasn't seen the human AI. This may look familiar to you, this opening square where before all these, wow, all these guys were just kind of hanging out. They were doing nothing. Now you can see that we have these guys patrolling. They all have bows. And he's actually like, I'm out. Looks like my work to try to get rid of these early weapons is still not working quite as well as I'd hoped. For these zombies, they look like they're back to the animation system. They don't look like they are. I'll tell you what though, they're doing like this kind of group turn towards thing, which is interesting. They're kind of moving together, so they're grouping. I think the problem is that they're moving so slow. So looks like the grouping code is working. So they're sticking together in certain areas. So they're either moving by themselves or they're kind of grouping up. I think a lot of that code would probably look better in the interiors. So for the resting ones, so potentially I could look at trying to get these guys moving together. So go straight I am Legion or I am Legend with that, where they all kind of huddle together kind of thing. These guys are all kind of shifting around. You know, it's slow, but they are migrating slowly but surely. Incoming. They're all kind of doing their Romero thing. Absolutely love the goons. They're probably my favorite thing in this game now. Let's go check out the interiors. So the more I think about it, like, probably with the exterior zombies, probably pretty good. I think for the interior zombies, I think I'll try to see if I can make them, make sure we don't have a goon coming up on me here. I think I'll try to make them cluster together so that you might get hordes in the interiors. And I think I might be able to access that a lot easier here. Okay, this was kind of an early test. They're still moving around. There's still the Romero zombies. Oh, hey bud. He came to check out what all the noise was. Yeah. Okay, going. Thanks. Okay. So another thing is that it's kind of hard to tell with a lot of this stuff when they're moving so slow. So trying to improve that, trying to improve the movement here. Well, that's a fun little glitch. So I think this is their move to code is not firing correctly when I'm above them. So writing in what they need to do when I'm directly above is probably also something that's missing. Lady, you about to die. So, yep, this is the new human AI. They work together to try to clear the streets. They're much more reactive, so you shouldn't have them standing around anymore checking trash cans. And overall, I'm very happy with this system. They seem to be backing each other up and working together pretty well. And after they finish clearing an area, they should fall back here and keep trying to help out these other guys in here. Just let your guy die. Oh, I see. It's from the pyre, which actually that was an interesting thing. I was actually sitting here going like, wow, finally some new models in here. Like I haven't ever seen her out, in the wild kind of thing, and it's because of the vigil. So they've got her spawning in specifically for the for this little burial thing. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back really quick. Let's see if I can have the fighters, which I should have done the kid zombie. Make sure. All right, so we'll launch this back. I'll go look for a child zombie. It does look like the actual zombie that I set up for the main zombies out in the world. It doesn't look like those actually are spawning, and so potentially so the ones that I replaced specifically could be storyline zombies. So that's pretty fun. I think I'm also going to target the virals. So if they had teenagers in here, I would actually try to target probably the teenagers to try to figure out how to get them running towards you. I think I probably messed up, or I missed Ali here. I think he left. Thank you so much for your support. If you come back and view this video, Best Gamer Ali, thank you so much for your support, and look forward to your feedback once 1.0 hits. So let's see. Let's go head out to find a Banshee. So instead of messing around with the daytime, let's switch it up here. I've also been looking to see if I can add a penalty for dying. There's currently no penalty for dying at all, and it actually makes more sense to just die really quickly than it does to do anything else. Like, I don't know why I would run all the way back over there to do change to night instead of just jumping off a ledge. So I'm potentially also going to look at this reward system here and see if there's some way that I can make a negative or something with dying, to where dying becomes a less, I don't know if desirable is the right word, but a less preferred method of changing the world or resetting or whatever. So I'm going to switch the screen really quick while the clock ticks down. So time is shifting by there. We'll give it till 1930, and then we'll go search out our kid zombies. So underneath general, they have this idea of rest. So let's go in here and say rest and see what they're doing. So basically, it just starts them resting. It sets them to where they're no longer awake. And they go to sleep. Now, I do wonder with the zombies that I've actually never really seen a zombie just decide to go to sleep. Like they've been like hanging out, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm gonna go to bed. I haven't seen that before, so I'm curious if there is a way to even see if that works to where they actually do go to sleep. I think it's in the code, but again, I don't know if I've actually ever seen that. So the problem with this is that if I go in here and start the code where they go to sleep, or if they group together, the problem is that do they actually start in an awoken state before they go to sleep, or do they spawn in already sleeping? I have no idea which. Alright, so it is now nighttime. So I think the easiest place to find Banshees at night in this map is probably just start a chase. Now that they're assigned to randomly spawn and you start a chase, let's see if we can find them out in the wild. You've been on the ground. Officially nighttime over here. All right. He's too close to use the grass. Alright, special and infected nearby. Let's head that way. Shit, that doesn't work. You're the wrong one, obviously. Come on. Forgot what it's... Oh! Forgot what it's like to be a low level. Yes, these guys have been spoiled at this point. These guys really do stick right on your ass. My very own personal volatile shit. Oh, well. That didn't work. Nope. 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 Come on. Banshee. Red eye. Banshee. I think one of my favorite things is like that's the Romero zombies. So it doesn't really matter that you're playing, you know, without the runners. There's still plenty of challenge out there. All right, let me see if I can. There we go. Special infector popping in. I think that's a pretty well known Banshee area here. That's about it's a fire goon. It's not an actual fire goon, it's just a goon who's caught himself on fire. Alright, I feel like that one over there is usually a Banshee. Let's see if we can get over here. Yep, no, that's gonna... Yeah, alright. The little kid over there. It looks like it's acting a little... Oh, shit. Well. Do or die time. Okay. Well, it looked like a human with a hat. So nothing too crazy. I need to kill one. And I don't know if I can kill one without slaughtered here like that. Yep. Okay. Now the name of the game here is that we run. Spotted me. Hey Roland, how's it going, man? Yeah, I'm trying to. I got the children's zombies working, and so I was just peeping at what that looked like. Um, Basically, I don't think it. I originally was trying to see if the Banshee would be a good way to go. I'm not really sure that I liked the Banshee. So what I'm thinking is that instead of doing the Banshee, maybe I'll do the early stage virals instead. Let me go in here really quick. I'll set these up as virals real quick and see how much I hate that, and then we'll see how much fun that is. So it's going to be in here under the viral. There's actually quite a few different ones in here. So if we go in here and say child girl, let's go in here and just say select it random here, see what we get. And select it random. Boy. And then I think with the Banshee, I'll probably just get rid of the Banshee. But that being said, here's a fork, new zombies, merge into. Oh, wow. Duh. Okay. It's confused. I know why now. That's good, Roland. That's awesome, man. Keep trying to hit it. Get out of the house some. Absolutely feel that. I try to go and run as much as possible, but it's always just kind of dependent on when you can get away that week. But love running. Let's see. And then I mean, while I'm at it, I might actually grab like other virals, and instead of them being the burnt up ones, maybe I'll also go to my work with the survivor women and also get them. Here's a random woman. Let's get her put in as a viral. And then we can go to like the man, sleep zombie, man. Let's grab one of them. Let's see, we got level 1, B. Let's go to level 1, A, 2, survivor. I guess I only ever put in the women. Oh, okay. Well, we'll start there. Just see what we get. So that should get us. I'm rolling. Yeah, you better not head outside. That's way too damn hot. More power to you going to the gym with it being that damn hot around there. Let's see. Fighter, AI, fighter. So a couple things with the biters. We need to figure out what about the current code is getting them to stay as the Romeros versus update with the different run codes. So something about it is moving them in a direction and then it's not updating. I think it's the simple move, but I need to confirm. And then also, let's go look at that idea of rest. So that's great. Yeah, I know that like when I hit the gym and it's like packed in there, man, it's not really like the best place to go work out. So it's awesome you get kind of the quiet environment there. Let's see. So what I'm going to try here is before we get down to the resting logic, basically run. So sequence memory, basically we'll go in here and say, I think this one is found in the move. basically let's try to move them together before they start these other things. So first let's have them move to where they start to go together and then they start to go to sleep. Let's just see what that does and see if we can actually get these guys kind of clustering together while they're sleeping in the buildings. I think that would be nice and creepy. Um, and then also, I want to, it's already going on 10 o'clock my time. It's crazy. Already been on here an hour. Let's see. We also want to, or I want to go and look at a couple of other things before we deep dive too much on the biter code. But essentially, goal here was to look at, well, actually, I'm going to set up there resting on the inside like that. And then I'm going to look at something here where I had this idea for sending the zombies inside um, instead of having them all just kind of shamble around in the sun. Maybe looking at having them, some of them out in the sun, and then them moving slowly towards the buildings, kind of thing. I thought that could be a nice, fun element to add in here. Let me go and say spider, fine. Have the code is night, and I think what I can do is actually just flip that, but let's see if they have the condition is day. I don't think they do. Um, Basically, what we can do is say any of these. How was I setting it before? So I think it's set on the volatiles, um, where we're saying is night, not on their, under their escape from sunlight, or is it prolonged UV? Condition. Technically, I guess I could make them, if I wanted to, I guess what I could fire off in each one of these is the prolonged UV behavior in day. So say like if it's daytime, and I think actually on the update here for the crawler, I think I noticed that at current time, last time in UV light, sunlight reaction is night. Yeah, here we go. I mean, these are essentially the values that I was looking for. So if it's night, the invert of that is true, so it's daytime. And if they're not in a dark zone, then they're saying, okay, go do this. I think what I'm going to do is try to look at the idea of saying, so here we're going and saying at night, or maybe this is only, I mean, essentially, I think what's interesting is how is it setting the prolonged UV behavior. That's interesting. So here we have an example of a AI that's out um, in both day and night, and maybe I'm just missing it. I'll probably see it here in a second. Maybe it's under the reaction code. They're at the top. They're getting the biter in it. And then, and I've been meaning, I'm pretty sure I've got the common init here. Common init, and they are searching now. Okay. So with the rest, they're going to rest, and then in the prolonged UV behavior, we go to prolonged UV behavior for the biters. I didn't see a day and night switch. UV reaction disabled, random float, fire all. If they're standing, if they're in the UV light. Yeah, see, that's interesting. So this isn't a nighttime specific script, which makes me wonder if they move over in the daylight towards the building. If you bring them close enough to the UV light during the day, do they behave the same way as night? I wouldn't think so, but I don't actually see any code here that would make me think that they're only doing this at night. But basically, under their prolonged UV behavior, if we go look at as an example, if we go over and look at the volatile prolonged UV behavior, this is saying, see, that's it. It's the escaped sunlight. It's not the prolonged UV behavior. I keep getting those confused. So it's not actually the prolonged, it's the sunlight. So with the sunlight, we could possibly look at sending these guys indoors pretty easily. We just go to general and then I say biter. Let me just see what ends up happening with this. So if we say biter, escape from sunlight, I'm sure they have these under there. Yeah. Selector code, go back to their main tree. We say escape from sunlight. We'll change this to biter. And yeah. So now they should start to move towards those. They should start to move towards the dark zones. What's interesting is whether or not they're going to be really dumb like the other ones. So the problem that I found is that the different zombie types, the virals, the banshees, the spitters, the volatiles, if they spawn indoors, they don't activate until you step into the interiors. I'm really curious if I add this, will they ignore the player and just start to go towards the dark zones? And let's find that out, because if I can get that working, then potentially that is a good kicking off or jumping off point for trying to find out why the volatiles and the rest of them are only using the interior code and it's not working everywhere else. So let's add these. This will get rid of our little zombie children for now for the banshees, but it should add more to the virals. So let's see if we can get a viral to come attack us. So we should have a few viral. That's not scary at all. That's quick. Take an arm off of these. Oh no. Got damage on his eye. Bye. I love his scarf. Oh, that's messed up, man. So can you pardon my experimentation here, y'all? I guess virals are still set up to where I think I set up their arms. Maybe. Guess not. I'm about to get banned off YouTube for this one. Shit. He heard I was killing the kid. I think that's the funny thing. Yeah, that was a good question, Johnny. I was actually just trying to test that. I'm pretty sure it was. Most of that's based on the colliders baked into the models, so I think so. So we've got, let's see, there's also female ones as well. It's creepy. Hear a couple running around, but that guy, he's clipping through the rooftops, which makes him a little less going across the line there. Yeah, I really do think Old Villador is probably, you know, my favorite location for the creepy volatiles crawling around the city. Just because the once you get into the city, they're pretty much just everywhere kind of thing. But I really do feel like here you get that like limited rooftop space. So you're pretty much just higher probability that you're eventually going to climb onto the same rooftop as one of these guys. Someone got caught out. And what I've been trying to look at is basically making the flashlight more likely to cause them to spook or detect you. And so, is that a Molotov guy? You can get away fast enough. Okay. So, we need to go switch to daytime really quick. I'm sure I could find... Well, I guess really quickly, let's see if we get the other zombies out here. Oh shit. Demolisher? Hid. Let's see. Oh shit. Let's see if the hitbox is any smaller. Yeah. It went over his head there. So what I'm probably going to try with the kids is is I'm probably going to see if I can update their clothing or something, or their skin, to where they actually look more infected, similar to these guys. Speaking from a design standpoint, if they use similar UVs across the different characters, then potentially I can use the same UVs from the other guys and put it down onto the... This is just ridiculous, man. So what you're seeing here is a combination of where they no longer retreat. So I got rid of the concept that they would go run off into the dark. And so they'll basically sit here and keep trying until you lose that chase. So we've lost the chase. I have seen where it glitches and they essentially just kind of like despawn. I think that also might be a height thing. Oof. Oh. They got me. So I'm going to revive at dawn and see what happens with the sunlight here. Look at that low-level loot. Love it. Got some Sunday shoes. That's pretty good. I still haven't figured out how to use shoes. I was looking at their crafting system the other day, and basically I was trying to craft new objects that have never been made before. And they really did add some interesting code that basically makes it to where they have everything kind of like cataloged, is how I would put it. So everything is cataloged, so there's no way to add items. Look at that. So potentially that walk code worked here as far as them walking towards their enemy. They look like they're moving a lot faster. I feel like the Romero thing is no longer a factor here. They're definitely moving now. Maybe the so I've seen before where their different sensors kind of do different things for them. Maybe this is based off of... There's no way it's because I mean, I didn't remove anything, so they've got the same logic. The difference is that potentially the sunlight code is getting them moving, so it's snapping them out of their like initial state, and they're just all moving towards me now. At a pretty good pace too. A couple of them are stumbling, and then look at that, they just kind of update that to where it's like, we were stumbling, but we know where you are now. Well, that, you know, that gives me hope that I'm able to write their movement a little bit better here. As you can see, you have quite a few zombies moving here. All doing their charging and all. So the question is how much are they doing the random movement though? So I mean, sure, we had that before where we had the zombies moving around the scene. I'm not as concerned about that as much as I am with... I love that. I have just a good sized little mini horde there. So they're doing the clustering still, is what that looks like. So we're still getting some like clustering. Let's head up top and see if we can see a little bit easier here. We got this. So it looks like they're moving together. So the move together code is working, I think. They're moving a little bit faster now, so it's easier to tell. I guess what I would like to then see is if they start to move in a group away, or they start to go pick random locations to go travel towards. Is that... That looks like a regular human right there. Maybe that's one of our kiddos. Looks like a kid. Go check it out. Really wanted to make it to where like the kids would end up more likely indoors. So you had like all the kids. That is a kid. If I could change their skin, he's kind of off the ground because he's not supposed to be this short. He's kind of floating in the air there because his limbs aren't being stretched long. Ooh, being stretched long enough there. And so probably his hitbox is the same as any other zombie because the model is not defining the hitbox. The model is just being moved roughly in the same place as where the hitboxes should be, and so this definitely got the biters moving. So I think the approach here is to have the Romero zombies kind of as an additional add-on to where I have the Romeros as like a fun little, like, if you want them. And then this should be kind of the new casual survivor, or at least what I'm writing is trying to look at how we can access their movement code. Now I'm going to see if I can... So we've got them all doing the same thing. They do their little, like, random queue-up sprint thing where they, they prepare for coming after you, and then they scream, and then they come after you. We've got that, but I definitely... Let's see if the crawlers are a little bit better now. It's calculated. Okay, so the movement indoors thing didn't work, so the respond to sunlight thing did not work. Because it's not really about that. So I'm not really worried about them reacting to the sunlight as much as I want them to get the retreat position and fall back to that position off in the distance. So, Johnny, don't get me in more trouble than I might get in for putting a bunch of kiddos as zombies that you have to slaughter. Maybe that's added as an additional so that people can choose whether or not they would like to have kids in their experience. Let's see. So with that, actually, seeing how I'm right here, before I dive back in here, basically we want to go to the notepad. We're already there. Go to the man, which I think that was who that was supposed to be. So that was the viral man, that kid. And basically we want to go down to their resource materials. So I'm already giving them the zombie eyes, but that didn't actually really work. Obviously, And so if that didn't work, maybe what I can do here is, and I'm also curious about like their hair. Maybe I can even get the hair information from one of the regular zombies, maybe even making the hair look crazed as well. Let's see if we go in here and say, maybe they don't have hair and that's the problem. So if we say biter, let's give them a biter material really quick and just see what happens. I'll put it on all of them really quickly so that way I can find them easier. The woman, let's give the actual, let's go get a woman material here. Interesting. So that might actually be a better chance here is they've got a couple of ones here that I think are meant to be more like survivors, but I think they're storyline. So might have to move some models around, that kind of thing, to figure out how to get these guys looking natural. But so they've got new materials here. So let's see if we give them these materials, if this will help make them look a little bit better. And I'll just leave this one. Even if I could figure out some way to like desaturate their skin, I mean that would be pretty great as well. So I might just have to keep playing around with that to see what we can get. But so for the random movement, we now want the biters. So first, let me do a backup here to say, you know, quite a few changes here. We'll make sure. So walkers now moving quickly towards player, walking. It's the walkers. Push that out. And then let's go back in and say, walk. This is the one that we set walk to enemy. So to test, let's go in here and say, where is it? Choose move style. Let's go and say notice walk degenerated and just see what happens and see if we can start to identify where it's setting this movement. So let's just do that for now. Nothing crazy. Let's go check out these zombies and see if the kiddos look any better. So we should then be able to head over here to this tall building and kind of get an idea very quickly. We'll even see our zombie friend. Oh, that kid's over there. So they're doing their idle animation now, so they're no longer doing their immediate idle walk system. So I may need to reintroduce how that is being initiated, which is not a problem. I just I need to figure out the order of operations to send them in. So let's go check out the kid. It doesn't look like they're actually... Oh, he's messed up. He's... Oh, that's funny. Alright, well, actually, that's how I want them to look. That's pretty much it. While we're at it, let me see if these guys are clustered together any. It's really hard to tell. Everybody's clustered together. It's inside. Okay, so also let's look at the movement speed. So they're kind of like broken foot shambling. I find that really funny. He's not making any noise, or maybe he is. It's like, do they have to act like it? Is he glitched to where? Interior zombies, get in on this. So I think that's probably more ideal. I'd have to compare the videos, but I think that one's a little bit better than the walk they had before. The other walk they had was just kind of like, you know, they were walking. I feel like this one's a little bit more, I'm shambling toward you, and you can see here that they are really moving in from all over, so this distance code is working very well. They're definitely out here for sure. See, that's the thing, is I'll put the kids in there, but then I'll hide their faces. So can we really say that it was, you know, a kid? So they're responding accordingly. That's another big part of this, is how they respond to the human AI. So basically, it's difficult with the update system to make them respond or do a behavior and then also make them stop that behavior to interrupt and have them go after a target. So I think this is pretty good. I think they're moving pretty quickly. They're not super smart, so they're not doing the ultimate level, you know, crawling all over the place, but they are doing a decent amount of moving towards the player here. And then let's bring in the virals so that we can start to see these other models that we got. Let's see if any of those materials worked. Yeah, they are. Hurt. Alright, so we got a couple virals off of that. Doesn't look like any females. We don't have any females. See what the females will look like. We definitely have this, like, these very specific male virals. I feel like those are definitely fairly common now, but okay, so I think I've confirmed based on their movement here. I think it is really that value that I just set, where we have them we now have them moving across the ground doing a little shamble thing. So the part I need to add in now is basically the randomizer where it goes and says, you know, one of these can be true, so that way it doesn't have to be. And I might be able to do that as easy as just writing a selector. So let's go ahead and stop it there. So then under the biter random walk, also I guess we need to go over on the kiddos here, each one of these, and say undo, and potentially, based on the storyline, I might actually be able to find. I mean, it's good enough to see now that it's fairly easy to go and change the models. I mean, that was the problem, is I wanted to add on to the models. I didn't want to replace models, but they're basically cataloging everything at this point to where you can't inject content. And so because of that, until I figure out how to get past that barrier, kind of stuck there. So what I need to do here is say selector, and then this actually needs to be, say, request move distance needs to be a little longer there. Not sure why that's so short. So under here, say selector, let's see if this works. Get rid of a couple of these so we can get to this easier. You have a notice walk. We have a enemy. Now we have the degenerated walk. That. Selector. Let's see if that works. It's actually going to work. But give that a try, see what happens. For the kids, we need to go in here and say models, and then go to our virals here, viral man, and then go low, potentially go down here to like, I mean, there's a very small chance that they've actually got, I mean, I guess what I could do, this guy has hair, so that's nice. We could at least grab, this says woman. Huh. Woman. Eyelashes. Man. And so they all, I mean, these guys pretty much have the same different here. If I need to, before I kind of copied over just the material as a test, maybe I go over here to the zombie man, and probably for these, let's actually go down to the survivors and see if they have like a survivor zombie. Let's go like here, and then say survivor, and let's see if we can just take this and go in here and say that's the viral, and then for the zombie man, let's do the same. Let's just see what that gives us. So we should have a new walk here, and we should have a potentially working material for the kid. Go test that. I think what the challenge here is that with a couple of the different models, like for example the Banshee, so I would like to ideally take something like the Banshee and turn the Banshee into something else, or at least have different variations. I think the challenge is that they all have a very specific mesh, and so they all have that very specific material as well. And so because of that, there might be a zombie that we can use. We just have to figure out which zombies share UVs with other characters, which I've looked before at their extracted texture files, and you can kind of get an idea from some of that, but they did a very specific kind of process with the different models in this game. So, well, he's got one. He's actually got a skin now, so that's good. So the random walk is still not working. That's fine. Let's go see if we start to get their attention. If we start to see some different walks here. It's a demon child. Oh, I love it. Okay, well, actually, if we could get that working for, oh my god. Yes. Okay. So if we could get that working for the other one, that would actually be pretty awesome, because we just need to figure out which models actually look appropriate. But I wish I could also get their feet planted. That's another thing, is that obviously his feet are off the ground here. So we've got kind of the shambling walk. I see a couple of them are using like the full shuffle walk. A couple of them are using the walk. He's using the shamble. That looks fairly diverse. I mean, there's a couple that are synced up, but it's pretty good. Like his head is too big. Is that what it is? Like, it feels like he's pissed. Hey, bud. Kid go. Get out of sight and figure out. Interesting. I may have broke their UV sensitivity. This is that move towards code that I was working on. I thought I pulled this back out. So this may be why people are experiencing that problem. I'm pretty sure this is solved by a dark zone. Let me double check this here. Kid. Well, I need to revert the volatile code because I can see that that somehow got messed up still. Whoa. Oh. Deal with you. So we need to definitely revert something a little volatile here. And that's always kind of the risk I run with trying to get in these updates, is that I have to be super careful not to keep code in there. But look at this. This is actually pretty awesome. So we got a good, diverse group. They keep up. They are pissed I'm on the ground. They're actually doing a good job of staying attached to me. So I think this is pretty much every zombie in the area is behind me. Yeah, if I could get rid of one group, it would probably be these rag idiots. I hate those guys with the sacks. I'm not really sure. I really don't like the hoodie guys either, but there's this one like beanie dude everybody keeps talking about, like he's the most common one that you see. I'm nervous to replace characters like him because if he's the most common one, then you're going to end up with like a flooded street full of undead kids, which maybe that works. I don't know. Maybe that's super creepy. I mean, maybe that would be just fine. I'm just a little nervous. These streets are intense, man. All right, so the selector worked, I think. Let's go back to our kid. And so he's now using this one. If we go down here below, tap this that's why he looks so weird, is that maybe that is the here you have these, and then underneath that you have fighter. Maybe I used, to be honest, if that's the case, here and change it for this one as well. Let's go in and give him the zombie eyes. I like those like white eyes that he had on there. That was Mouth interior for the zombie. And then eyelashes, right, wet eyes. And then down here, these are already set up. There's potentially, if he has hands, man survivor hands. I wonder about changing this part of it though, because we do want him to still look like a kid, maybe, or maybe it would help to have him like dried out as well, like the torso. Maybe we'll try to get the torso, and let's just see how bad this looks, and then so main. But the idea of like a torso front, and then they have the idea of like a torso back. It's here. It starts to get really confusing with some of these. Torso part one, so there's this hoodie. Let's just save those changes, see what we get, see if we hate it. So that's for there, and then for the movement, we need to go into the, let me pull up the change log here for I think under, if we go from like here to like here, then we can see what I've changed for the volatiles. Which maybe that's it. I did move up the combat. I mentioned that one before. So potentially he's following the combat more than he's. Let's just dial back a little bit of time here. We'll reset the file here for. Where'd it go? So we say reset file to state at commit. Reset. Interesting. So I guess it didn't exist before the commit. So maybe here we say reset to the state before. And let's see what we get here. So let's go source, go. And then I think with the biters, we need to try to see if there's a way for the biters we have the random walk down underneath everything else. maybe we get it underneath this the selector here. Well, first we want to turn on the reactions. Then these are optionals, and then under here we probably want to add the, well, no, they need to be able to stand up first. Stand up, and then prolonged UV behavior, we added escape from sunlight. So let's go here, we'll have them walk. Let's try that and just see what we get real quick. Start wrapping up for the evening. I didn't get down to the balancing just yet, but we did get to the movement. So with the zombie movement improved, now potentially we can look at trying to see how we can slow them down a little bit. I need to fall back, check it out. Okay, now that looks pretty good. Got kind of the slow shamblers here. And see, this is the problem I was saying before, is that the LOD system basically takes these guys, and if they stumble out of the distance, like if they stumble out of the space randomly, then what happens is that they get reset at their UV location, or at their LOD location. You can see those guys fading in over there in the distance. Basically, as these guys start to shamble away, so they're moving away there, they will eventually start to respawn and kind of pop up on the map. So a little less rewarding to have them kind of pop back in, but at the same time, you know, this is what I've been hoping for, is which basically, check this out. I mean, they're all, now the question is, do they see me? A couple of them do. No? So it went too far up on the list. So it got them moving. Got them moving. Can you break them out? So we got them moving. Now the challenge is how do we get them moving correctly with the rest of the system so that it's an appropriate handoff. It needs to interrupt correctly, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. Is that basically this is great up until the point that it isn't, where now all of a sudden, you know. So what happens if these guys wake up? Guys that woke up are looking like they're glitched a little bit, maybe? Or do they actually see me? It's really funny. Oh, here's our kid. Let's go take a look at our kid. So that was the case. So I switched his normal map. And so the normal map actually worked. I shouldn't have tried to change his clothing. As you can see here, he now has... I'm not actually sure how he ended up with the clothing of the different guy. I didn't know you could actually... I mean, I guess that makes sense. That you could go in there and change their clothing. I feel like that probably is going to get pretty complicated, but potentially I could go in there and give them the zombie clothing. I think this is an example of what the noise system does for them. Yeah, they're all fighting their system. But it works well. I mean, you can see here that this is a good amount of shift and exploration. It varies, it changes. Each one is doing kind of his own thing. Now let's see if we can get their response system. Hey George, how's it going, man? Yeah, so the whole thing is kind of buggy right now. So I just made some changes to their clothing there. Let me go back and let's go to the different things that I changed. Yeah, so that's where I accidentally changed the mesh. Huh. Okay, that's potentially really exciting because I learned a couple of things there. First, I can change this. So these are the normal maps. And so I can change his normal map and not have to worry about changing the rest of it because the normal map is actually what is going to make him look worn. So we can put a normal map on him without having to change his other specific details. For the skin, we want to go here and get his zombie eye. And we also want to make sure that he's getting the eyes here. And then that should fix his model there. So the model should be better. And then for the legs, this kind of goes back to the whole thing that we were looking at, or I was looking at with the first game, where they're essentially building these guys on run, which is bizarre. It's essentially skinning these things on run. And I think what I just saw is confirming it. So if we went to like Zombie Man, let's go in here and say Zombie Man. And let's go in here and say grab his hair. His there's arms, torso, torso parts, legs base, arms base, boots. So if we went and we grabbed the information below, I'm really curious to see if we grab, starting from, I'll have to look at this tomorrow. I'll just fix his model for now so I can push it back up before it cause any serious damage. So one last thing to check really quick before I wrap it up here for the night. So we've got them moving now. The part that's missing is that they're moving, but they're no longer attacking, which is a problem, obviously. So if we go down here and basically this needs to hand off to a movement module. And I think that's really the problem here, is that they don't have a movement module, while a lot of the other NPCs do. These guys pretty much just shamble around using the animation, and then once the animation is done, it just plays the animation again until you walk up. So potentially we go down here and say below attack and see if that works, but I may want to look at adding a second knowledge tree to these guys in general, which is based on other logic trees that says use your different systems with proper interrupts to where once these are complete at any time, they can be interrupted by combat. And I think that's the part that's missing. Yeah, maybe not any day, maybe within the year, but we'll see. Um, I'm not sure with the modding tools that they released last time, even if they did give the map editor, that would be great. But I think the challenge is that it's not going to be based on um, based on the actual career here. It's going to be probably just based on custom maps like before. So yeah, I think that's the problem, is that you go one down here, and now they're using their combat module, which their combat module says stumble around like an idiot until a player gets close to them. So you see they were stumbling around, and it looks like now it is actually kicking it in afterwards. So now they've stumbled around, they've picked a random direction, and now they're moving. So I guess the question is does their attack module still work, or are we still getting locked up? Getting locked up, but maybe only when they're actually moving. So we go over here. See, that looks a lot better. He's still weird. I mean, obviously he's not. It's so bizarre. really sure that that's much better. He's a quote-unquote kid. I would have to keep playing around with these models and meshes to determine if these are worth doing. But essentially the problem with the kids is that they're too short for their legs to touch the ground. He does look very cool. I mean, I like him. The challenge is does he kind of meet the criteria for, you know, the creepy individual that I want him to be. So we can see here that the movement module is working still. So even after it plays the combat module, it is working with the movement module. The challenge is that with their movement modules, I like this little sideways strut they got going on. With the sideways module, or not sideways, with the movement module, the challenge is that, oof, that was sexy. Nice shot. With the movement module, they don't have an interrupt, and I think that's all it's missing, is that it doesn't have an interrupt system. It only can move them, and it will continue to move them for the foreseeable future. So all I'll need to do is build off of this module to allow them to stop and interrupt and actually fight. So when these guys stand up now, do they? Yeah, so they now the interior bandits or the interior zombies are fixed now. So interior ones are fixed. Basically, what I need to do is keep the same setup. The difference is that I probably need to look at changing. Ooh, actually got one attacking. So I need to look at moving that movement module deeper into the system, so that it's able to return to these always. These are the higher level knowledge. These shouldn't be causing their movement. If anything, these should just be handing off to those systems, and then those systems should be moving when appropriate. So this approach is kind of outdated at this point. I'll have to step back into it in the morning and look at basically under their attack code. There's probably a good area here. So like combat, basically it runs this system, and then after it's done, once it's done with this system, then it moves on. So like, for example, here they're telling them to stand. So that's actually perfect. I think I will just test this out really quickly just to confirm. I'm pretty sure this will fix everything. We just need to go down to the here and grab this. We'll go ahead and get rid of this little identifier here. Go over to the biter combat. Instead of them standing, or maybe we'll do another selector. I haven't learned how to do I haven't learned entirely how to do the randoms. But this should do. Hey George, it was good talking to you, man. Hope you have a good night, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching. So if we go in here, and I'm actually going to do it like that. It's not a sequence. So selector, and then Could even hook this into I think I'm gonna actually, just until I balance this out, I'm gonna cut this off real quick. Let's go back and say source. Here. So using this approach, that's why there needs to be like a movement module, because I'm pretty sure with this approach, this can only be triggered or set off after they attack. So like, for example, we go here and say like throw coin. So let's see if they like investigate. They do their little investigation module. We got them moving. They look around. No, they go back to idle. Interesting. So then what if we go down here? Good stuff. This made a big difference as far as how they determine when to attack and the range and all that good stuff. Potentially we can increase this even further. This is currently sound based, so sound is bringing them. If I wanted to, I could improve the distance at which they find their targets as well. There's a couple of different systems that are working to guide these guys, but the part that's missing right now is, okay, let's get them moving randomly in different directions. I think this is fairly close. I think I just need to continue to look at trying to figure out the best approach to how to get these guys moving with the current movement system, and whether or not to go in there and write my own movement system for them. The benefit of writing my own is that potentially, if I just write my own, then I can call it however I want to call it. I can set it however I want to set it. It'll just take longer to write. So. Okay, I think that's enough for me this evening. Thank you guys so much for coming in, keeping me company, and watching the status update, and also providing feedback. I really appreciate you guys coming in and continuing to keep updated with how things are progressing and staying part of the development process. It's been a lot of fun. I think, if anything, from the child zombie stuff, I think that this has kind of shown that potentially we could get some better clothing on these assholes. Even if I can't get the child zombies in here how I want them, potentially we can make these zombies look a little more like the environment we're in. They're currently wearing, they did this with the first one as well, where it's like, you've got all these zombies that are wearing outfits that no one else is actually wearing for the most part. And so it might be a way to go in and still keep them looking a little more ragged, but just update those to where they're a little bit more fitting with the bazaar and that kind of thing. Anything. Well, I won't get ahead of myself, but we'll see what we get here. Alright guys, thank you again, and again, my name is Jason, and this has been another development episode for the mod I Am Legion for Dying Light 2, and I look forward to talking to you guys here shortly. Hope everybody has a good night.